and record high temperatures in Australia. Weather forecasters say it could get even hotter. But is it due to climate change? Well, still in Australia, but away from Melbourne, in another part of the country, it's matched its hottest day on record after a remote coastal town reported temperatures of 123 degrees Fahrenheit or 50.7 degrees Celsius. A temperature that high hasn't been seen in Australia for 60 years. The country has experienced heat-related disasters in recent years. There were devastating bushfires in 2019 and 2020. But is it due to climate change? I asked Professor Leslie Hughes from Macquarie University to explain why this is happening.
Well, the world is in a long-term global warming trend, and while average temperatures are often what is recorded, what a long-term trend also means is that the incidence of extreme events like hottest ever records are also inevitable, and that's what we're seeing in Western Australia at the moment.
And what are the conditions there right now, and how are people coping with these sort of temperatures?
Well, I imagine that virtually everybody is inside in air conditioning if they have it. So if you're inside in air conditioning, I guess you can sit it out, because being outside in 50+ degrees is extremely dangerous to human health. But of course, not everybody can afford air conditioning or have access to air conditioning. I saw an article this morning indicating that the local jail doesn't have air conditioning, so the inmates will be suffering a great deal. So once again, these sorts of extreme climatic events do bring home the fact that some of the most vulnerable people in our society are also the most vulnerable to climate change.
Absolutely, Leslie, and that's the condition for people. I know that there's also been an impact on wildlife and animals in that area.
That's right. So we're seeing impacts of heat waves all over Australia over the last decade or so. Particularly birds and flying foxes are very, very vulnerable. Even those birds that normally live in really hot and arid climates can suffer mass mortality when conditions get to be so extreme, especially if they don't have access to ready supplies of water. So heat waves and other sorts of climatic extremes are driving a lot of ecosystem change in Australia, not just in Western Australia, but on places like our Great Barrier Reef, which has seen unprecedented bleaching events over the last 6 years.